good, y'all? I'm Jerry, about to check out 10 worst WWE matches of 2002. This video is about Cultaholic Wrestling. I'm not really familiar with the worst matches of 2002, but I know one of the best matches that happened of 2002. It was voted the best match of 2002 was when Kurt Angle and Chris Benoit beat Rey Mysterio and Edge for the to be newly crowned WWE Tag Team Champions at No Mercy 2002. So we about to hop into the video and see the worst matches of the year. Let's go.
2002 is one of the oddest years in WWE's entire history.
Yep.
Not quite the Attitude Era, but the very beginnings of this
the Ruthless Aggression Era is the start of it.
Era. Stone Cold was still wrestling, but he also
was out
wasn't.
and he left.
The company seemed to have one top championship again, but wait a second, here's the World Heavyweight title to make things a little more interesting. In amongst the big positives like Rock vs. Hogan and the debuts of guys like John Cena, Randy Orton, Batista and Brock Lesnar, there were some plain old terrible matches for us to cling on to. At least that'll never change, eh? I'm Adam Pacitti from Cultaholic Wrestling, and these are the 10 worst WWE matches of 2002. Join us. Number 10, Batista vs. Kane at Armageddon. Sometimes putting two big beefy boys in a ring together and letting them fight is a license to print money. However, this technique doesn't work all the time, but in the mind of Vince McMahon, it's often the way to go. Hopefully Vinnie Mac enjoyed seeing Kane take on a rookie Batista at Armageddon in 2002, because that means at least somebody enjoyed watching these two tussle. Batista had just aligned himself with Ric Flair and was on the verge of joining Evolution. He needed to beat a big star on a big stage in a good match to cement himself as one to watch. Well, as Meatloaf would say, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Big Dave was not the most versatile performer at this part of his career, and while a reliable performer, Kane wasn't really a ring general. The match just plodded on, with Flair occasionally getting involved, turtleneck and all. Whilst the up-and-comer did win, which was the right choice, the match itself was hardly a shining endorsement of somebody who was supposed to represent
I never even knew they faced each other
in
2002.
Number 9, Tori Wilson vs. Dawn Marie
No Mercy.
No Mercy. In the previous video of this series, we talked about the infamous Tori Wilson's
Al Wilson
during coitus storyline. It concluded in epic fashion at Royal Rumble 2003, but actually got its start the year before. Before Dawn Marie officially got hitched to Big Al Wilson, she fought his daughter Tori at the No Mercy event from October 2022. On a night that saw Triple H unify the World Heavyweight and IC Championships and Brock Lesnar defeat The Undertaker in a brutal Hell in a Cell match, two women went head-to-head for an old man's heart. Talk about a trilogy. To give these women some immense credit, this was just a boring match. It was nowhere near as sloppy or degrading as some of the other women's segments and matches from around this time, with Tori even hitting a really nice dropkick to the outside to start things off. It still wasn't very good though. Don't get me wrong, probably because WWE puts absolutely zero effort into presenting women's wrestling as anything other than a sideshow. Number 8, Scott Hall vs. Bradshaw at Backlash. Individually, Scott Hall and John Bradshaw Layfield are two very accomplished wrestlers. JBL is a former WWE champion, and Hall is widely regarded as one of the greatest to never hold that belt. That said,
never been WWE champion before.
Their best day at Backlash 2002. The two men shared the ring for just shy of 6 minutes and only hit about 6 different moves between them, 90% of which were punches. You would easily be fooled into thinking this was a worked boxing match, or even Rock'em Sock'em Robots for that matter. The only exciting part of the whole thing was when Farouk beat up X-Pac on the outside in a mini APA reunion. It wasn't enough, however, as Hall punched JBL in the knob and rolled him up to mercifully bring this one to an end. The crowd were molten hot at the beginning of this match, ready to see two stars collide headfirst in the ring. However, as it slowly wore on, they became quieter and quieter, to the point where you could have moved the ring to a library and nobody would have noticed. Number 7, Stone Cold Steve Austin vs. Big Show at Insurrection. WWE had 2 field trips to the UK in 2002 for 2 British-only pay-per-view events. SmackDown got Rebellion, while Raw got Insurrection, the first ever single-branded pay-per-view in company history. The UK crowd
I don't think they did it in
Stone Cold Steve Austin,
2003.
that he was winding down his career
2003 probably was last year they did Insurrection and Rebellion.
To help carry a battered Austin to a good match. Well, it's the Big Show. Austin might have had every injury in the book, but Show didn't really fare much better when it came to stringing moves together. As a result, this match was just incredibly basic. Punches, kicks, more punches, even more punches. The NWO ran in to try and help their giant friend, but were fought off by Austin and Ric Flair. This all led to Austin winning the match and stunning Flair after the bell. A decent ending to pop the crowd, but not worth sitting through all that for. Number 6, The Undertaker versus Triple H.
King of the Ring.
A main event doesn't necessarily have to be the best.
That match went worse.
However, when the final
They had The Rock involved in it
on an already
towards the end.
show, you know something has gone very wrong. This wasn't all The Undertaker and Triple H's fault, though. The Rock had made an appearance backstage earlier in the night, and fans were far more interested in waiting for him to make a run-in than they were in the match. On the other hand, maybe if the two competitors had gone at a faster pace, the viewers...
Yeah, it was a little slow. I remember that, watching it.
For 23 yawn-inducing minutes, the Game and the Dead Man slowly bopped each other around the ring while everyone watching fell into a medical coma. You can actually see people at ringside staring down the entranceway, choosing to maybe get an early glimpse of The Rock rather than watching this lumbering affair. Thank God Rocky did eventually show up, otherwise everyone in attendance might have ended up being fossilized. It woke up a lot of the audience, but it wasn't enough to wash the taste of so much boring wrestling out of our mouths. Number 5, Big Show versus Brock Lesnar and Survivor Series. Between his debut the night after WrestleMania 18 and Survivor Series 2002, Brock Lesnar won King of the Ring, the WWE Championship, and was undefeated on television.
He was.
But wait, who's that?
That was his first loss.
Well, yes, I've done it again.
Big Show gave Brock Lesnar his first ever loss
against the literal big thing with good old trustworthy Paul Heyman in his corner. Wait, Paul, what are you doing? Put that chair down! Paul, no! Yes, Heyman betrayed his young prodigy to side with the big nasty. A chair shot and a chokeslam later, and Show was your new champ. On the list of best choices for who should have ended Brock Lesnar's undefeated run, Show was somewhere toward the bottom, nestled in between Rico and Tony Chimmel. Heyman's turn made 0 sense either, as there was no way anyone with half the intelligence of Paul Lee would choose this version of Big Show over nature's greatest killing machine. Also, the match only went 4 minutes, and Lesnar was working it with a broken rib. Bit of a nightmare. Number 4, Hollywood Hulk Hogan versus Triple H at Backlash. Sometimes something that seems good in the moment can have far-reaching and
that match went that good. I never seen it.
Take the Rock's match with Hulk
I know Hogan won.
18. It's widely regarded as one of the greatest in Mania history, especially for the crowd reaction, which organically turned Hogan face after they refused to boo him. While this was all great at the time, it did lead to this awful moment 1 month later. Hogan's unexpected surge in popularity led WWE to push him right back to the top of the card at the expense of newly minted WWE champion Triple H. The pair had a very clunky main event at Backlash where Hogan dropped his middle-aged leg across the game's chest to win the gold for the 6th time. Yes, people were thrilled to see Hogan back, but as world champion, no thanks. Fans were anxious to see what
he had a pretty good, decent little run
but WWE
until he lost to Undertaker at Judgment Day.
On it just 28 days later. Unfortunately, the match in which Hogan lost the belt was even worse than this one.
Judgment Day.
More on that later. Number 3, Jazz versus Trish Stratus versus Lita.
WrestleMania 18.
WrestleMania 18. On paper, this seems like a bloody decent clash. Jazz was a
they really had just gone on after The Rock and Hogan, so that's why the crowd wasn't into that match.
What is it doing on this list, and why is it so high up? The answer? There could have been a catastrophe at several points during this match. It started off fairly well, with defending women's champion Jazz throwing some stiff-looking offense.
So I think they had just went on after Rock and Hogan.
Oh no. The pair were nowhere near their peaks, with Trish having transitioned into full-time wrestling less than a year earlier. Lita hit Trish with a back body drop that could have separated her shoulder before almost dropping her directly on her head with a botched body slam. Then Trish fumbled a roll-up and crashed into her opponent head first while charging out of the corner. There is a fine line between putting on a realistic match and being out of control, and unfortunately it looked like we got the latter here. A bad match is one thing, but a dangerous match? That's a whole other level. But hey, at least Jazz looked alright. Number 2, The Undertaker versus Hollywood Hulk Hogan at Judgment Day. A month after he was unwisely made WWE champion, Hollywood Hulk Hogan had his final ever World Championship defense against the man who had beaten the Hulkster for his first world title a decade earlier. On the evidence of this bout alone, maybe it wasn't a particularly kind decade to either man. Undertaker's biker gimmick had run its course and fans were starting to get a little bit sick of him.
For real?
As for Hogan, well, just go back and watch the entry about him versus Trips for an explanation. The iceberg that sunk the Titanic was more manoeuvrable than these two and is probably considered less of a tragedy than this match turned out to be. The absolute pièce de résistance was the now infamous choke slam, The Undertaker nailing Hogan with all the force of someone tucking their kid into bed. You need to jump, Terry, that's kind of how this whole wrestling thing works. It's appropriate that Hogan was in this match, as it very much felt like a WCW main event from the late 90s, a slow showcase of the stars of yesteryear that fans had absolutely zero interest in seeing dominate the card. Number 1, Christopher Nowinski and Jackie Gator versus Bradshaw and Trish Stratus on Raw. This is it. It's the match. The match widely considered to be the absolute worst in the history of Monday Night Raw. What a treat.
Nah, I don't believe that.
Was thrust onto the main roster.
I've seen a lot of bad matches on Raw.
Winning the second season of Tough Enough and, crucially, before she could receive any sort of proper training. She was totally fed to the wolves on the July 2002 episode of Raw, teaming with another newbie in Christopher Nowinski to take on relative newcomer Trish and big old Bradshaw, a man who does not like rookies. This match has to be seen to be believed. Gator botches everything, and I mean everything. She infamously sells a second row bulldog about 10 minutes too late, and the crowd absolutely dump on her for it. It was a bad idea to give Gator so much time in this match. It was
they did on live TV. Come on, man.
She needed way more in-ring experience, but her chances of ever being taken seriously ever again went up in smoke as soon as the bell rang.
Alright, y'all, great video, man. Let me know down below in the comments of what y'all thought of my reaction to this video. Like, comment, subscribe. Until next time, I'm out. Peace.